Good evening, this is Force 13 Live, and we're looking at our primary focus for this hour of updates. Tropical Storm Chaba. A little bit of a typographical mix-up there at the bottom on our warnings and watches for 2L, which is another thing that's going on out there. But the main focus of today's event, or this evening's event as it is local time, is this storm, which has been developing quite substantially over the course of today in the South China Sea. Latest indications from ATCF maybe up to 45 mile an hour winds. Some agencies, I believe, are starting to suggest higher already, and our team will be able to tell you about that in a moment. There are blue typhoon warnings in effect for this storm so far. I imagine there may be more on the way. My name is Nathan Foy here in the studio, and joining me right now is my team, where we have on board Kenneth, Soham and Marlene. Hello all of you, how are we?
Hello.
So Kenneth, let's start with you. This storm is pretty close into your neighborhood. Hong Kong expecting to issue Signal 3 storm warnings later this evening, fairly soon.
Yeah, so over the past few hours, Chaba's still trending northward at around 15 kilometers per hour, and it's moving north-northwest in general. It is expected to move north-northwest in short order, and the local winds will strengthen gradually. So Hong Kong Observatory will issue strong wind signal number 3 between 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Midnight. So Chaba, despite some moderate amount of shear, it has been developing pretty decently, to be honest.
It has. When you look at it on satellite imagery, especially further out you look, it looks very impressive just to look at it. Good rotation, convection blowing up near the center, much better than it was looking 12 hours ago when we finished up our stream last time.
Yes, the development, although the shear is moderate, is pretty much for early developments. The development speed can be pretty quick, just like this. A Chaba here. Remember, in the back 12 hours ago, SCAT supports only 35 knots, 65 kilometers per hour. But in recent hours, it is developing substantially, and there are ships reporting at 4 p.m., which is 8 UTC. There are already 47 knots sustained winds recorded at the northern side, and 43 knots sustained at the northeastern side, which along with recent development, the current 1 minute sustained winds may already increase to 50 knots, which means something like 95 kilometers per hour, which is what also Hong Kong Observatory is going with right now. Observatory is estimating the system at 85 kilometers per hour, the upper end of tropical storm, near severe tropical storm strength. So as China Meteorological Administration, which also going with 85 kilometers per hour right now, probably consider some ships observations right now.
And when we look forward to its forecast, we can show, I had it in my tabs here somewhere, the JTWC forecast. I have actually misplaced it. I know it's on one of my screens somewhere, and it is here. Was there just a minute ago. There it is. So there's the forecast from the JTWC at any rate, and they are projecting the storm to reach typhoon status just as it makes its closest approach to Hainan, and then weakens a little bit before making landfall in southern China in Guangdong province towards the west, with a fairly large storm wind field. Is there still a significant amount of uncertainty on the track of this? Because you take a look at GFS model particularly, and it's been wanting the storm to curve the other way and deliver very large amounts of rain to parts of Vietnam, which is the opposite direction to what the JTWC are forecasting. Wherever it ends up, it slows down and it's going to be a massive rainmaker.
Actually, I think the track is already pretty set in stone. That the one that JWC is forecasting is already a mainstream. It wouldn't. I doubt it will get much more north. It will. No, even it will move further east than Yangjiang. It currently the expected landfall location in Zhanjiang City, but yeah, it's pretty much the mainstream. If it is slightly more east because of its intensity or other thing, but even if it really moves towards the Zhejiang Delta, well, I really doubt this. What's GFS is right now? Because it assumed that Chaba is able to consolidate itself and move north. Well, which is, to be fair, that's a pretty much an aggressive structural forecast, which I doubt it because the shear is expected to increase again on the 2nd, which makes things worse. Which just makes things like will slow down its development to like slow development. Right now it should be like slow. No, not slow. It's now a normal to fast development speed right now, but later on, it will slow down after the 1st of July because of mainly wind shear. Other than wind shear, sea surface temperature, the energy given, and the outflow, everything is pretty conductive to Chaba, which the currently JWC forecast and China Meteorological Administration also aligns with JWC with the typhoon minimal typhoon forecast. I do believe it is reasonable. Yeah, a pretty reasonable forecast as of now. Forecasting a typhoon right now.
Now, Soham has sent us a couple of images. I'm going to show the second one first, the GEFS, the ensembles, and what they're showing. Some of our graphics are blocking that. Let's just turn that off for a minute, and you can see there. Even within the ensemble output, then there is actually a lot of disagreement. So that is all over the place. Intensity wise, generally you're looking at a brief category 1 peak according to all of that. Wind shear is hovering overall fairly moderate, but some of the ensembles are absolutely all over the place. So any comment you'd like to make about some of these pictures? I don't know if they're there right now or able to speak, but I know that Kenneth, you've already gone over what your thoughts were on that. What are the other models showing at this point? Anything that sticks out to you?
So pretty much model-wise, for the consensus of the model, not much of a discrepancy. Well, the discrepancy is already pretty much more comfortable than some other, like some other will really like underperform, overperform, but this one not quite really, because first of all, the chance of rapid development, it is less likely, given that it is it is limited by wind shear. Would it underperform or not really? The ocean and outflow is pretty decent, which will provide the development opportunity to it. So the development trend is pretty much pretty stable. Yeah, though the model forecast with intensity may be pretty stable, but in terms of if you go to more micro-wise, the wind side, the wind radii, the structural development, now pretty much with the main discrepancy, which Euro will EC will forecast a more broad system, and while GFS will want it wants a tighter system, built of a better structural consolidation.
So, Kenneth, when you look towards the potential impacts from this storm, I've already laid out that we could be seeing very large amounts of rain, over 400 millimeters in some areas. To your knowledge, this part of China, how is it doing in terms of water? Is it flooding? Is it in a drought? How is this rainfall going to affect the region?
Although back in April or May, the rainfall amount has been dreadful. It is much drier than normal. But as we on June, the May fronts already because the interesting point is that this time the front earlier the majority of rainfall all lies on the western Guangdong, pretty just west of the regions that Chaba is expected to strike. It's already received sufficient amount of rainfall on June from that rainstorm event like in spring. So it is pretty much will be I expect a typical serious flooding effect for near the system, while it's pretty much still very monsoonal influenced for Chaba and pretty much in South China Sea. So the water vapor development will pretty much keep continuing to bring significant amount of rainfall south of Chaba system, like Hainan, not just the Landfall region, which we're pretty much for Landfall region is like,
Right.
well, if you expect, well, like a typical 400 millimeters expected, while for some southern regions influenced by monsoon and Chaba, pretty much also suffer a total amount like 150 to 200 rainfall at the very least, possibly higher. It's still mainly water event rather than winds. Its wind side will be pretty big because of monsoonal feature, and because the shear will keep the will hinder the consolidation of it. It will remain large. I doubt that GFS output will really make the storm consolidate to a more compact system, remain broad. So the wind radius, the swells will remain broad in impact and should be pretty much aware of.
All right. We'll get onto some questions in a moment, but first of all, I just want to point out when you look back at the wide shot of the Western Pacific, and you can see two of those systems there. The one on the right is Invest 98W, which looks to be on the way to forming. The Philippines already named it Domeng, and Sohum posted in the chat just now, Kenneth, about ASCAT arriving on 98W. I don't know if Soham's there just now.
I should note that the pass, while it was another one of those frustrating edge passes, it did notice some shifts in the wind barbs. If you see, you can see just the barbs just curling over there. At the moment, we are waiting for the other ASCATs, for the ASCAT C instrument to pass as well.
Yes, so we can't really tell anything out of that. I'm just trying to... it's hard to see from here without a microscope, just by screen from where I'm sat. But what are the highest wind speeds in that graph? Is there any... I'm sure there's 1 or 2 35 knots there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's
there's a few.
gale winds. Yeah, some gales winds. Pretty at the southern side. As it moves northwest to northwest. Because the one thing that we're questioning is because the weakest side is persistently the western side, which is opened. That's why we aren't really conclusive about its tropical cyclone status, because the main question is the western side instead of the east. But indeed, given a persistent convection, a tropical cyclone seems to be forming from 98W, and that could is expected to move northwest, and with that, depends on the intensity of it. It will somehow impact the track of Chaba, which if it trends stronger, it may possibly and make Chaba further north, but a limited amount of northward track. Yeah, like I said.
I'm just gonna try and get another image on here too, to be able to show you another perspective of the storm. We've been running around trying to get different kinds of imagery because it's been a while since we've done a Western Pacific stream.
Yeah.
And never much time to prepare for these things. But there we are, another view. You can actually see both of those systems there on the infrared channel. And once again, Chaba showing some deep convection blowing up. It's still not certainly not assured large amounts of convection, but it is doing a fairly good job. Southwestern side really blowing up as well with some minus 90-degree cloud tops. But we've had quite a few questions that came in so far. Dorian M unsurprisingly asks, can Chaba become a super typhoon?
Really
Well,
unlikely.
And
I would say it's pretty unlikely, considering looking at the models, there will definitely be a component of northerly shear that will inhibit for quick intensification somewhat.
and what is the chances of tropical storm force winds in Hong Kong?
So in short, you want to signal 8. Well, FAQ. Low to moderate at this time. Not really high confidence right now. Depends on the ended up the gale side of Chaba. See is if it really can consolidate and contract, pretty much this track is set in stone that it is unlikely that it will move closer than 200 kilometers west of Hong Kong. East of 200 kilometers of Hong Kong, it only moves further than 250. Right now, it's forecasting 300 kilometers southwest of Hong Kong for the closest approach, which makes signal 8 less likely because the typical radius, gale radius, you want like 200 kilometers or something. If you like Chaba, like maybe broader in the future, maybe 250, 300, but really marginal case, which let's make reference with the signal 8 forecast from Macau, which already improved consistently since 2017. A painful lesson. The currently signal 8 chances is low to moderate. Not really certain about it, but
They're at 1 at the minute, aren't they? Macau, they're at signal 1 right now, aren't they?
Yes, it is still the same signal 1, and it's expected to they might issue signal 3 tomorrow midnight. I mean this midnight or tomorrow morning. Chances is high. They haven't issued the time of that yet. Yeah, Macau haven't mentioned the time of issuing signal 3 yet, but they say signal 3 chances of issuing signal 3 is high. At midnight to tomorrow morning, with a chance of issuing even higher signal 8 to be low to moderate. So we can take that chances at Hong Kong as well, given the given the size is large, the micro difference, like a few kilometers wide, the impact should be smaller than those very compact system. So you can take that chances as a reference as in Hong Kong as well. Well,
I also saw a question earlier about whether it's connected to the monsoon, this storm, still.
Indeed, pretty apparently it still is. The monsoon is, well, it is still attached to that to the monsoon. The water vapor supply from the monsoon, while Chaba is still taking
If you direct your attention to this one picture that I posted in the live output channel, you can see there's a very strong monsoonal outflow all across the South China Sea. So it's definitely drawing from the monsoon.
Wow, look at all that. from all kinds of places there over Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and the Malay Peninsula. There's something going on in northern Thailand. I can't remember what it is. There's a red warning. I think it was for rain, which was curious. Looking at that image, that actual area appears to be in a little gap, so that's interesting. But nonetheless, that's another look at the storm. Just briefly glimpse the JWC track there, reminding us of its expected forecast. If you have questions for us whilst we're on the air, please send your messages in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, and if you like what we do, and please share our stream if there are people you know who would benefit from our coverage. This storm, a fairly large influence around it, particularly on its southern side. Northern side, not much is being felt across the land areas yet, but we've been hearing of those Signal 1 and 3 warnings on the way for Hong Kong and Macau, and in China, blue typhoon warnings for large parts of coastal Guangdong province. I don't believe they've put any out for Hainan yet.
Speaking of, you've mentioned the southern side is very good. The northern side is not much happen. It's still pretty empty in weaker in convection. Well, speaking of that, let me share my screen here. You can see in radar.
Oh, let's just get this.
Yeah. Let's just show it here. This is the radar in Hong Kong. So I said before, there's a model sounding. Wait a moment. There's a model sounding from Soham. Yeah, here. So you can see the shear. You can see pretty much because it's moving north. It's moving north. There's some easterly shear right now in the high to mid levels, which because of the rotation of system. The northern side is weaker because of the impact of shear, as well as the southern side is being really rich because of the support of the monsoon and a very good outflow, easterly outflow at the upper level, which contributes to the stronger the south and weaker the north. But at the northern side, as we see from Hong Kong radar here, more banding has been developed here, such that's why the South China coast is receiving more showers in the afternoon compared to that in the morning. We receive more showers and gusty winds because of the banding development of Chaba. It is steadily developing in terms of the intensity and both the symmetry. It is improving as well. You can see more bandings and rain at the northern side, which signals more axisymmetric structure. Though it's still not really symmetric, but still a sign of a balanced development for further intensification. Yeah, to pretty much like a typhoon status. Yeah.
I'm just going to see if I can get onto the model software that I use to show everyone what the latest from the GFS is regarding Chaba, and so far the GFS has been overestimating how this storm might do. Certainly pressure-wise, if nothing else, but maybe not as much. I mean, it is saying a Category 2 at peak by the looks of things there, grazing the coast of Hainan, and then along the Leizhou Peninsula, I think it is, and then further inland, and then it moves towards the west there at the end, which is not what the JWC's forecast is, although some GFS ensembles do have that, the JWC forecast happening. But interesting to note there, big wind field, that's the green area, All of those green areas, tropical storm force winds. So very large populations likely to be affected. Just a quick look at what's going on to the east there as well. That other storm that might form, it looks like it will form, moves over Okinawa in a couple of days, and possibly
That's 98W.
approaches typhoon strength as well. Yeah.
That's yeah.
But what I really wanted to show whilst I was on this software was the rainfall estimates, at least from the GFS. So that's just loading in now, and you'll see this chart start to light up more and more as we go along here, as the frames load in, and you'll see just how much rain is expected over some of these areas if the GFS has its way. I would just advise on this that you would probably see the rain displacement from this model run further east than what you're seeing, but it will still be probably very similar numbers at the end of it.
Seems to line up with the shear vector so far, the rainfall.
So far it's just loaded out to 3.5 days there, so even in 3.5 days you're looking in some areas of 20 inches of rain over parts of Hainan, which is 500 millimeters of rain, according to that GFS run. That's in 3 days, just trying to get, now it's up to 5 days, so not much after that, and then towards 7 days, which is what I usually go out to. Enormous amounts of rain building up, I think to do with 98W later on as well. Something happens over there. It delivers a huge amount of rain just off the Philippine coast, the northwestern Philippines, on day 5, 6, 7. I don't know what your guys' take on that is. What's causing that? GFS really blowing that up. Look at that. In there, 57 inches of rain in 7 days. At a location out at sea just off the northwestern Philippines. I've got to see what's causing that now, because I don't think it's directly related to either storm.
They are more related to just because the monsoon. It's the activation of monsoon.
Yeah.
That the huge amount of moisture along with the terrain impact and topographic impact, it can really accelerate amount of rainfall at the windward direction, which will cause even more amount rainfall from the monsoon inputs, and for quite a few days, which is likely to be the main contributor to why there will be possibly a rainfall event in the Philippines.
It's right on the coast, the northwestern tip there. Some of the northwestern tip is in that 30 to 40 inch range. That's an extraordinary amount of rain, pushing 1,000 millimeters there in a 7-day period. But as for the storm totals then, you've got about 16 to 20 inches over, 12 to 20 inches over significant parts of Hainan. So that's 300 millimeters and up. Mainland China as well, similar numbers. If it did move further west, that would also extend into Vietnam. So there's going to be a lot of that there too. Further towards the northeast, even if the storm goes further west, it's still going to be 6 inches for places further east in Guangdong province. Hong Kong, looking at maybe around 5 or 6 inches as well. That's 150 millimeters of rain. Do you think that's likely, Kenneth? I think it would be. And just very high amounts of rain there. But once again, we have to advise that it's probably, the rain profile there is probably going to go a little bit further east than what is being displayed. So instead of having a rain profile shaped like that, it may well be more like a rain profile moved this way instead. And once we take away the overlay, you'll see which areas are more likely to be affected if the JTWC forecast comes to fruition.
As mentioned, because the shear is making the northern side weaker, which will also make the convection and rainfall to be weaker at the northern side. Likely at the northern side to be make the maximum rainfall back towards the western side, which also pretty much aligned with what China Meteorological Administration is expecting. That Hainan is also receiving a huge amount of rainfall there, aligned with the moisture setup of Chaba.
Let's go back to some more imagery. There once again, that was the wide shot. Let's have a look at one of the closer shots again. This is the RAM floater imagery, once again showing the progress of this storm recently. Cloud tops here and there, getting itself more organized slowly but surely. But once again, some impressive cloud top heights there, pushing 90 degrees, minus 90 degrees Celsius. Let's get some more questions. Why is Chaba very large? Well, I think especially South China Sea systems at this time of year, they just end up enormous.
Yeah, actually, if the system is monsoon initiated or highly influenced, it will be large because of the moisture inputs provides the system to be very large, along with because if you have a huge amount of monsoon input and that, the shear input, the negative input, the shear from the north of the system will also not be very small because of the Meiyue. And in summer it pushed further north because the convergence also pushed to the north. The entire planetary wind system pushed to the north, so as the Meiyue fronts, which brings the northerly shear to the system, will make it broader and bank towards the south in structure overall. It's pretty much a norm, except for those that are more easterly way from the Philippines, more north, that moves straight west from Luzon Strait to South China. Those may be smaller, but for these like monsoon initiated like Chaba or some other system, those are huge.
Okay, we have some more questions there as well. Let's see what exactly. I mean, questions about whether it will reach Category 2 status and a very specific 955 millibars before landfall. I mean, it does appear, I mean, mainly due to its size, I would imagine, that the pressure of this storm is probably going to be lower than average for its strength. And that is pretty normal in larger systems. I don't know if the environmental pressures around the storm are a bit lower as well. How's that looking?
The environmental pressure is estimated to be 1,002 millibars. Based on weather chart.
Yeah, that's fair. Is Chaba larger than Mankut from 2018? What an interesting comparison.
You don't compare like this. Mankut is.
Truth be told, we have no idea.
Mankut is definitely more broad because of the special structure after our being tear apart and Luzon. It is indeed broader, but it is a poor comparison, to be fair. Sorry about that.
George says, I know the Philippines isn't a direct hit of any of these storms, but because of the monsoon, what would be the rainfall prediction for Manila and western Luzon in general? Okay, well, let's go back to the rain chart. I'm just going to spend a moment or two trying to get that back up again. And we'll be able to take a good look at the whole region. So, Philippines viewers, let's have a look at this. So once again, there is the final rain amount, and as you can see, a lot of that happens early on, apart from the northwestern Philippines where that monsoon really kicks in at the end. Really kicking extra rainfall for the northwestern part there. But before that point, you've got quite a bit of rainfall earlier on in the period. Let's take a look at some values. The Manila area, around about 2 inches, 50 millimeters. Areas towards the west of there and northwest, around 6 inches are your maximums there. That's 150 millimeters. A few locations further south as well will be getting some rainfall. Northern Mindanao, looking at totals in the next 3 or 4 days of around up to 4 inches, which is 100 millimeters. Apart from that, you're looking at lesser numbers in many other areas, but most areas will be getting precipitation there. Some of the driest areas, probably parts of Cebu, which will only get around about 20 millimeters, not even that, 10 millimeters of rain. South of Manila, not very far away, towards northern Mindoro, very low amounts there as well. And up in the Cagayan Valley, much lower numbers there too. But apart from that, lots of moisture around, but particularly the western coast of Luzon. And then you look at day 5 through day 7, that torrent of rain, bringing that maximum total up to 60 inches off the coast, 61 inches. But the coastline is somewhere around there where the 20 to 30 inch line is. And of course this model run could change, so I wouldn't look too far into that. But it looks pretty likely that there'll be significant rainfall occurring. And that is sort of to do with the 2 storms, but not really. What else do we have just now? Can Chaba make progress in the northern part of the system and generate more tropical storm force winds to the coasts of southern China? Oh, it certainly will, and it's doing that already.
Definitely can. There have been recorded instances of such monsoonal cyclones wrapping convection upshare in the past.
Yeah, I think it's improving there in that regard already when we look at the imagery. I haven't examined how soon we might get those tropical storm force winds on land, but let's have a look back at the JTWC forecast cone for some clues. This was their update earlier on. In fact, this is, I don't know how long this has been out, and I didn't even check whether it was out when we first went live. But there is the 15Z cone, which is confusing because 15 Zulu time is still over an hour away. So very early with that, and they're showing that 40 knots program, and I've just noticed that. But anyway, they're saying their tropical storm force winds. Oh, looks like I've lost my system again.
So, I'll have a break in here. Invest 98W has been designated as 5W.
Alright, I'm not sure if people are able to catch that or not, because it seems my machine's having more issues again for some unknown reason.
The light screen just went down.
I don't know why it happens. 2 of my screens are black right now.
It is back, and the lights. I can see it.
Yeah, so I don't know what you can see, if you are seeing anything. I can only hear Kenneth and Soham there, so if there's anything going on, why don't you just take up the conversation, Kenneth, and talk about when we're expecting those tropical storm force winds?
The tropical storm force winds expected, it extends to 100 something kilometers right now. But the northwestern side is 0, but and recently it's already showing some even for interpolation it shows gale winds at all quadrants right now. And with storm force winds developing, near the center. Axis continues to intensify right now. And later on it will further expands because of the monsoon inputs and a gradual development but not rapid contracting, which makes it remains a bit broad, like a typical monsoon system, a monsoon initiated typhoon system, which will pretty much the radius will extend up to like 400 meter scale radius with the maximum with maximum winds extending to like, well, if I have to roughly guess, I'll guess like 60 to 7 kilometers likely to be impacted from the maximum outward winds. Yeah, it's pretty much like that. And for storm force winds, both for 10 plus winds, 40, 100, like 70 yeah, 70 kilo. Yeah, extending 70 nautical, like 1/4, like 120 kilo in diameter. Pretty much like that. Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much like that. I'm running some algorithm on my brain.
Yeah, I'm looking at both of these systems once again. We can see them there. They're looking pretty good, both of them now. So if you missed that news before, we just heard, I think, that they designated Tropical Depression 5. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tropical Depression 5W, that's the one on the right-hand side. It was named by the Philippines. It was Demeng, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that will likely get a international name probably early tomorrow at this rate. It's looking pretty good, and that's likely to go on and affect the Japanese islands. So things are getting really busy in the tropics when you look around the world, with the Atlantic warming up as well. But the Western Pacific is where most of the activity is at once again. And Chaba.
The next name on the name list is Aaron.
Yes.
5W name.
But Chaba is still the main risk right now. It threatens to become a typhoon. It will deliver widespread strong winds, and as we saw, a very large area of very high rain amounts. I do worry about flooding issues from 400 millimeters of rain over a widespread area. So those are the main things we've been talking about during this live stream. If you've got comments and questions for us, you can send them in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text on our chat. Let's see what we have. Can Hong Kong get a possible 100 millimeters of rain in 1 hour? Because that is my worst concern. I don't think those kinds of things are really easy to predict in the first place, eh?
Yeah, indeed. A short-term rainfall for that small area for models, it is an exceptional challenge. Even for 1 hour nowcast, it is a significant difficulty. The accuracy only like 40% from some research, if I remember correctly. Well, for 100 millimeter of rainfall, in terms of tropical cyclone, it is really exceptional. Like, if there any analog, it really isn't. If it's 100 extensive wide, for very locally, there's really rare cases. Like Chandu 2010, Nuguri of 08, but that's not the setup. Sam of 99, but also not the setup. If for similar setup, the only one analog will be Chandu 2010, but that is really occasional. So I wouldn't say any like very certain about that though. I do not expect that to be likely.
All right. Pardon me. We're still looking at this infrared imagery. One we've not been looking at for a while actually now is the close-up floater imagery. Let's see if we can take another look at that right now. There it is once again. It's just there we go, centering it properly, and you can see in real close-up proximity there just exactly what's going on inside the storm on the Himawari 8 rapid scan. That convection burst blowing up, quite clearly visible there, and expanding outwards. Hainan Island there on the top left hand side, just about to enter the influence of the storm's clouds. Now, Kenneth, we were discussing earlier, myself and Soham, as we were going live, about the strength of this storm and whether it may be being underestimated at this present time.
For JTWC 45-mile estimate, it based on surface observation and various satellite estimates, unfortunately JTWC is already underestimating the system by like a 5 to 10 miles per hour.
Ooh.
No, not too much, but that pretty much affected initialization of stuff already.
So, well, I mean, someone asked earlier about our peak intensity estimate or forecast. What would you say about that now? What is the ballpark range? Because you've been skeptical, to say the least. They've gone for an 80-mile-an-hour peak, the JTWC. We've looked at other models and they're not really going much higher than Category 1 either, or even through the end of Category 1 range. So what do you think is the ceiling now?
So right now, various estimates are posting consensus intensity of 60 miles per hour 1 minute, like 1 minute 95 kilometers per hour. For 10 minutes, you expect something like 85 kilometers per hour, which was this observatory's estimate, which is pretty good. The current, as the forecast, you can see there's still a bit of shear impacts from low level circulation and this convection burst right now. I can still see a bit of tilting due to the impact of shear, but the development should be still steady, which I expect from the normal trend that I know it should be pretty much becoming a typhoon, a Category 1 typhoon tomorrow night to midnight. If things warrants, it pretty much can become a typhoon tomorrow night. I'll agree that it's like to be Category 1. Agree with JWC and CMA's forecast. If you say it can be possibly lower because of the higher shear impact, like as lower as 55 to 60. That's already the base estimate. But for the higher ceiling, if it really consolidates itself and slightly northward for a bit further strengthening, the upper end will be like if I say 50% upper than, if I say 15% upper than 65 to 70 knots, will mean 80 to 85. That's the top estimate.
You can see our little inset window there in our bottom left hand side. That's showing the color enhanced infrared, and that blow up really looking impressive on that, well into the minus 80s. So that's just something impressive that we've seen. It always impresses me, Kenneth, how they just managed to explode almost like that. But we are looking pretty close in there, so it's not an enormous feature, but it is a substantial one considering that it is directly over the storm center.
Yeah, the blow up in the center does mean it has some kind of development, although it's not exactly fully aligned from the very exact center, like those that were really just boom like 45 not within 24 hours. Chaba is not such a case, but still pretty steady to fast development at early stage. Still pretty impressive. Early stage of development. For later stage, it will still be slow to steady. right now it's not looking really bad.
Now, people want to know if we're going to be doing a live tropical weather bulletin again tonight, and we will. That will be, just trying to figure out what time that would be, local time in Hong
8 or
Kong
9
at
a.m.
least. 9
8
a.m.
or 9 a.m. At 1:00.
0.
0 then 8 a.m.
So 8 a.m. In Hong Kong will be our next live stream, our live tropical weather bulletin, just as we did today, as it is your time. So we'll be there again with more updates. We obviously won't be fully on Chaba, we'll be more on PTC2 for our Atlantic audience, but I think we're doing a good job of covering all bases right now, and we'll have storm updates later on as well. I don't think we'll I don't know if we'll have time to do an update, a normal update on Chaba, but I guess this live event suffices everyone's appetite anyway. Some more questions there. Is there any more recon in the Pacific? We missed the good old days of recon. There sort of is a half-hearted recon now.
There was supposed to be, but early on this April, I looked into it. They said that the NOAA P3 aircraft, I think that's what it's called, was taken off the project because of technical issues. So we're not getting any public recon for the Western Pacific, unfortunately.
Oh no. Well, we'll just have to wait a few more decades. And they also asked Mohammed there, why did they stop? Most likely budget, yeah, as someone said in the replies.
The leading theory is budget restrictions.
But the official line was from the JTWC's annual tropical cyclone report in 1987, that basically
they were enough to replace recon.
They were basically saying computers were good enough to replace recon, and here we are not knowing what this storm's going to do with model runs today in 2022.
To be fair, NFC tells us it's not.
So there we have it.
Recon's superior.
Yes. Another comment there. Can Hone form this month? Well, there's only a few hours left of this month, so the answer's no, I'm afraid. No Hone this month. For those of you who have just joined us, this is the latest on Tropical Storm Chaba. We're just having a little light there in amongst this update. 45 miles per hour at the present time is our best estimate, moving sort of northwestwards and looks to be intensifying. Blue typhoon warnings in effect for the Paracel Islands and coastal Guangdong province in China. No warnings in the Philippines. No warnings, I don't think, in Vietnam, although I'm not fully sure. Signal 1 for Macau, although I heard that it might be Signal 3 now, and Signal 3 is expected any time in Hong Kong, so I imagine by the end of tonight it'll be Signal 3, both of those locations.
It is the Signal 1 for both Hong Kong and Macau right now.
Yeah. And as we've been discussing, the main threats from this storm, there's going to be potentially a large impacting wind field with typhoon force winds near the center that could affect the tip of Hainan and southernmost Guangdong province in China, westernmost. And the rainfall is probably going to be the most substantial threat out of everything, out of all the hazards in this particular storm, due to its size and its coverage of rainfall, the rainfall coverage over the next 7 days, which is expected to be very substantial indeed. As a matter of fact, 60 million people are in a 10% chance of 250 millimeters of rain in the next 7 days. So that's a fair number, if I do say so myself. 60 million. Let's see if we've got... There's some more questions here. I'm just waiting for my eyes to catch up. Will Invest 95L form before the landfall? That's a question related to the area of interest off the coast of Texas. I would stick it at about a 30% chance, which is what I put it at this morning. So probably not. Unlikely. Let's face it, NAM 3 kilometer, it doesn't predict it, so probably no. And why is Chaba so hard to predict in the first place? A question there. Well, Kenneth, you don't think it is really. You think that you said earlier it's pretty much set in stone.
But back when it is still it was still Invest 97W. Chaba's pretty it is indeed, the track is all over the place. Pretty much yeah, as expected, all over the place at the very beginning of stage, because you know initialization can be a factor. The structure is disorganized. The initialization of the various models can be very different. Secondly, the interaction between AW, the subtropical ridge, how much of the extent it will retract, and its internal force, which more driven in, based on the intensity. Well, all these things are very uncertain at the very beginning. When Chaba was still in Invest, that's why, as expected, the models forecast will be all over the place. But as it consolidates, it has a better refined structure. The initialization is becoming less discrepancy of the synoptic setup or structure-wise, which makes things more set in stone for the next 24, 48 hours. Particularly a chapter in this touching a short-range forecast, like only 3 to 4 days of forecast we need, which pretty much the uncertainty will be lower. But of course, as the how we draw uncertainty, we draw larger and larger as time passes. Pretty much, it's the exact same concept for models.
Right. Just looking at those latest frames again, that convection died a little bit at first, and then that new blow up really sustaining that convection. Well, we're coming up to the end of our stream here, so let's see if we can take a look around the other basins before we finish up. Here's a view. There's the Gulf of Mexico, showing that area of interest that we were just discussing off Texas. It's blowing up some decent convection. It looks horribly elongated and not got a center of circulation, I don't think. So it's going to struggle. That's not going to form. The Eastern Pacific looks like this. And you can see that area of interest still there. NHC at 60%. T-Coast this morning had it a little bit lower at 50%. And I'm just trying to find... obviously the one that everyone wants to see, which would be the image of potential tropical cyclone 2. Oh, there it is, covering up all of our screen, and you can see it there, looking very much the same as it has done in recent times. And honestly, it's not improving very much. It's starting to run out of time a little bit, and so far it has defied the National Hurricane Center's forecasts. Marlene, I know you've not had a chance to speak
one thing I'd say
so
in
far.
defense of there's one thing I'd say in defense of PTC02L is that its low-level center is decent enough. I've seen the NHC designate worse. Its main drawback is that convection over the center is still not organized.
All right. Marlene, I know you've not had the chance to speak so far, so I've just given you the opportunity here to talk about any of the systems that we've covered on our stream. If you're there. Perhaps not. I mean, they were waiting quite a while, but there we go. Kenneth, anything that you would like to mention before we finish?
So, right now there are five systems or AOIs active in other part of the hemisphere, which the main feature will be PTC2 and Chaba, and later on 5W, which is just designated. So if you're near the area of impact or PCC2, Chaba, do not stay away from the coast of all water activities. For those under warnings, there will be swells, showers, and gusty winds, possibly strong, even more rainfall stuff over the next 2 days for Central America and for the southern China, especially for Yangjiang and Zhanjiang, Hainan province in this area. Stay indoor, please. Don't go out. Leave indoor and don't go outdoors. Stay away from the coast. Yeah. Do all safety precaution as mentioned by officials. Yeah. Evacuate if needed. Yeah. Stay safe. Everybody.
Thanks to my team for this hour of coverage. We'll be back again with more of this on Force 13's Tropical Weather Bulletin, which will be occurring live tonight, 8 AM local time in Hong Kong, and that would be 8 PM on the US East Coast, and Central Time, which is what most of Central America use, that would of course be 7 PM. For Force 13 HQ, it's a good night from here. This was our update on Chaba. We'll have more on our social media platforms. You can also join the conversation on Discord on our server, discord.gg/Force13. But that's it for now, and we'll see you again soon.